Greetings and good afternoon from Austin Bergstrom International Airport. Today I'm taking an insanely long 15-hour odyssey from here to Johannesburg on Delta. This will be a 2-segment flight, with the first flight taking me to Atlanta. I will then depart right after sunset and cross the Atlantic Ocean and head all the way to Johannesburg, South Africa. We got a bit of time before our plane takes off, so let's maybe take a look at the Austin Airport main building hall. The ceilings at Austin Bergstrom International Airport are quite tall, with rows of lights down from the roof. It was only recently that I realized this, but I realized that there is colored lighting on the walls. To pass the time, I decided to head over to the window of our gate to watch planes heading in and out. The airport is quite busy, with planes coming and going nearly round the clock. Passing the time is quite easy. People were working hard to prepare this Delta airline plane for its flight that would be taking off later in the day. I didn't know where it was going, but wherever it was going, it was getting ready for departure. Please excuse my finicky narration. I've only just started doing this. I don't quite have the full experience. Let's hope it will be better in the future. Anyway, let's keep going with this epic long odyssey that still has yet to begin. After a little bit of waiting, our plane finally pulls into the gate, and thus it's time to start getting ready to get on board the plane. Hopping on board, we find some quite cramped seats with hardly any legroom at all. I really wish that Delta offered more legroom, because this wasn't super comfortable. Looking out the window, we see a number of planes at the other gates, as well as some baggage hauling cars passing by, giving us a few things to look at while we wait for our plane to take off.
Okay, then you probably can. I think there's a special lane for you to come back through security.
Okay, we're just about ready for departure. We need all passengers seated with their seatbelts securely fastened, and all overhead bin doors closed before I can close the boarding doors. Thank you. If you're on your cell phone, kindly end your conversation. Place your phone in airplane mode. Laptop computers turned off and stowed either in the overhead bins or beneath the seat in front of you. They're not allowed to go in the seat pockets or be held for takeoff and landing.
In the seat back pocket is the safety information card. The safety information card tells people what to do in an emergency. It's highly unlikely, but it could happen from time to time. Above the seat are reading lights, which come on and off in a rather sort of slow and interesting way, as well as air vents, and even this sort of long bar light along the wall here. Our plane soon pulls out of the gate, marking the beginning of our first 2-hour segment over to Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. taxiing, I saw a propeller plane, a nose prop, from FedEx. Never expected a small prop plane like that to be used by a cargo transporter, FedEx. Our plane soon reaches the runway, and we take off, beginning our long odyssey over to Johannesburg. Taking off, we get, I'd say, an okay view of the highways and fields and small forests around Travis County. Gaining altitude, the clouds eventually blocked my view of the ground outside, which meant that for most of the flight it would pretty much be nothing but clouds and blue sky. Airplanes don't offer the best sights to be seen, so technically they are not the best experience that you can have when traveling. They may be fast, but they don't offer a great experience, in my opinion. Safety information card, I also noticed this other card that appeared to be stating that it was for free Wi-Fi. I'm not quite sure what it was about, seeing as how I've always had to download things, and it was no exception on this flight in order to watch things when flying. If you know, let me know in the comments down below. Like on most public transportation, the tray table folds down from the seat in front and is quite standard for aircraft, and can extend a bit for easy use. There is also this small cup holder here used for holding cups for water and alcohol and stuff when the snack and drink service begins. The flight itself may not be a huge experience, but the real experience will be when I actually get to Africa. I am going there to search for 4 rare and elusive animals. They're gonna... Wait, maybe I shouldn't tell you, but anyways, that's gonna be, the next video, which will be going live on Friday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, as my videos always do. So stick around to see that next week, because that's going to be like a really big one. I can't wait to share it with all of you, but in order to do that, we need to get there, so let's get back to the flight. I actually got a small view of the ground as we flew east, but it really wasn't like a great view. I'm going to be riding trains in the future, which will offer much better views of this, and will probably be much more of an experience, despite actually being way slower and I'd say tardy. But I can't wait to start transitioning towards rail travel and sort of get out of this, I'd say, sort of stinky air travel, as I think I'm getting kind of bored with it. After Austin, we soon make an easy landing into Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Pulling up to the gate, segment 1 of this long odyssey is finally complete. We are actually not even halfway done with our adventure, and we now have a pretty long layover in Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, so I don't know what I'm going to do during this long wait. I'll find something. Our flight is at a different terminal, which means that we are going to be taking the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport plane train to get to the next terminal, where our flight to Johannesburg will be departing from.
So this is the next time we go to check. I think it's like the same guy down to the control. So I think it's like a different group altogether.
The train soon pulls up to the platform, and we can soon hop aboard. The plane train was quite crowded, and thus I didn't film the actual interiors, because again, I don't usually want to film people close up, as you know how it is. Anyways, it's time to get moving to the next terminal.
The next stop is for A gates. A as in Alpha.
Attention please. During construction of baggage claim ground transportation station elevators are out of service. The station is still open. However, if you need an elevator to access baggage claim ground transportation, please exit at T gates.
Hey, I haven't had any.
We make a few stops before we make it to our terminal. Hartsfield-Jackson Airport is so big that it can be quite hard to navigate the vast airport, hence the plane train, which really comes in handy in an airport this big.
Please remain on board for domestic baggage claim and ground transportation.
Attention please. During construction of baggage claim ground transportation station elevators are out of service. The station is still open. However, if you need an elevator, please exit at T gates.
Please hold on. This train is starting. Please hold your belongings and move to as you exit. Please remain on board for domestic baggage claim and ground transportation. Board the plane train. Please hold on. This train is departing. The next stop is for domestic waterplanes and ground transportation. Please hold on. This train is stopping. Please lock your belongings and lock your step as you exit.
We eventually reach our next stop and can soon hop off on our way to the gate. As stated when departing from Austin, our plane won't be taking off till after sunset, which means we actually need to head over to the lounge and wait for our plane. From the lounge, we can get a great view of the terminal as well as the airplane parking lot and a bit of the runway, and we can watch planes heading in and out. There was quite a bit of action going on, so I was kind of able to pass the time, but with the hour layover this long, it was still a bit difficult. Offered in the lounge are a selection of snacks such as this plain vanilla cookie, which was pretty delicious. As we were waiting, a Delta airplane pulled out, preparing for its departure for wherever. I didn't know where this plane was going, but wherever it's going, again, it was getting ready to take off for its destination. few planes took off over on the far side of the airport, giving us something to look at. However, the windows here had a bit of like a sort of a screen-like thing, which made it a bit difficult to see things that were far away. That's my mom and my grandfather having a conversation there. They are coming to Johannesburg with me. I'm not going to explain my family a whole lot because that's not really what my channel is about. It's about my travels, not my family. But I could make a small channel about my backstory and my family if you want. I opted to have some salami as a small, sort of a, I wouldn't say dinner, but sort of like a backup food before our long odyssey across the Atlantic. As well as the vanilla cookie from earlier. Chocolate chip cookies are also on offer, and they tasted great. As our plane's takeoff time approached, we grabbed our baggage and left the lounge for our gate.
It was 14 initially, but then I put in a bunch of shoes. So.
I think the A380 is waiting out on gate F4 is our Delta flight out to Johannesburg, and it's a quite big plane and definitely looks pretty fit for going over the seas. Wonder what the interiors are going to be like. So, only one way to find out is to go and get on. The sun began to set as we were waiting to board, and it was quite pretty. Unfortunately, the cloud cover kind of blocked it, but it was okay. Not bad as far as sunsets go, but I think I've definitely seen better ones. Boarding soon begins and we can hop on. Getting on the plane, we are met with a super comfortable seat that is privately separated from the others, which is a huge departure from the domestic airlines, which have seats facing together. This means that you can have your own private space for the next 15 hours.
Okay, Mr. Morris, you are the one who ordered for? Okay, I want to make sure that I want to keep you somebody else. Yeah, no worry, no worry. Mr. Morris. How many days are you going to be there?
The sun had just set as we had gotten on the plane, with the sky starting to turn to a darkish blue, which meant that nighttime was approaching, and as was our departure.
Oh, we're flying, man.
Oh, okay, Mr. Morris. Oh, you see Mr. Way. Okay, I crossed it.
Yeah, we got all.
Okay. You try to mess with my...
The menu for our meals on this aircraft is found just behind this table holding the airplane socks here. I again didn't have a good feeling about this menu as airplane food has been known for being quite bad, and this flight ended up being no exception.
Like any orange shoots?
No, thank you. In the small pocket here, there was a water bottle as well as headphones and the airplane socks that I mentioned earlier. The water bottle was nice and made it easy to stay hydrated. In the pocket down here is the safety information card, very much like the information card on the flight here from Austin. It was basically just the same standard Delta card, nothing really different. Just the same for like water emergencies and crash landings and stuff. soon pull out of Atlanta, beginning our long 15-hour odyssey across the Atlantic Ocean all the way from here to Johannesburg. This is going to be a big one, so settle in and get comfortable. The sun was long gone by the time we began our taxi out to the runway, with the skies being as dark as they could possibly be in the night. This meant that I got no daytime shots heading out of Atlanta, so anyways, I managed to get some daytime shots. Let's get on the flight because, again, this is going to be the longest flight that I've to date.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, we'll be taking off here in just a few moments. Like this is flight 10. Please have the cabin for departure.
On our way out to the runway, we passed a small hangar that said Fly Delta Jets. I didn't know what that meant, but it is what it is. Sure means something. Let me know in the comments down below if you know what that means. We soon made it out to the runway and thus took off, beginning our 15-hour flight across the Atlantic to Johannesburg, South Africa. So just again, a quick reminder, settle in and get comfortable because we got a really, really long odyssey ahead of us. First class seats on Delta are incredible. I have more than enough space to stretch out and get comfortable, and like my feet just barely touch the seat in front or wherever. There is also this nice footrest here where you can rest your feet. It's very comfortable, and I think it was definitely worth the money for this 15-hour odyssey. If it was like the Delta flight earlier, it would have been less than ideal. Above the seat are again reading lights as well as air vents, which can be controlled via the button here. However, instead of one light on at a time, both lights came on at once, which was interesting. Being designed for overseas flights, first class seats have a leg rest that folds out from beneath the seat. The leg rest is controlled via these digital buttons here, which put it into a bed position as well as a standard seat position. Pressing the bed position folds out the leg rest and reclines the seat into a very comfortable lounging position, which is comfortable enough to sleep. Although I think the sleeping accommodations that I will later experience on trains are probably way more comfortable than this. But we'll have to wait and see for my first overnight train journey, which will be going live in the coming weeks. Pressing the upright seat button returns the seat to its usual state and is for its daytime configuration when you're not sleeping. The tray table is launched out via this button here, as opposed to with most aircraft where it folds out from the seat in front, but instead of that it extends across, but it's still just as easy to watch TV or eat something here. Anyway, it's quite useful and it comes in handy. When sleeping, mattresses, pillows, and blankets are offered to make the experience even more comfortable. Not as comfy as an actual bed like at home, but it gets the job done. And with that, it's time to turn out the lights for a good night's rest. We woke the next morning right as the sun was beginning to rise, our plane still well over the Atlantic Ocean. A bit of light from the sun just barely began to peek over the horizon, which meant that the sun was only just beginning to rise. Looking at our plane status, we actually weren't even halfway over the Atlantic Ocean. Our plane was still well out in the middle of nowhere, with the nearest land still being like 5,000 miles away, at least to our destination anyway, which meant that we still had several more hours of traveling. The time had changed since we had crossed different time zones heading eastbound. It was that time to our destination was still going to be another good 10 hours and 5 minutes. Though I got some sleep last night, it wasn't very good. I hear this from a lot of people that they never really sleep well on planes, probably due to like the noise and like the altitude. Some chocolate soon came around, and it was not really the play like with most airline food. The sun began to peek out as we flew over the Atlantic, and the sky eventually started to turn blue again from pale dark. I was actually able to spot the moon, which appeared to currently be a crescent moon. The moon is sometimes out in the daytime, but usually it's a night thing. I've seen it every once in a while during the daytime. Get a bit of a look over at the ocean itself through the cloud cover. However, due to it still being a little early, it was hard to really get a good shot of it on camera. The itself soon peeked out over the horizon, and it was quite bright and a beautiful sight to wake up to in the early morning. Interesting thing is that there are actually doors by each seat that can close, to provide extra privacy if wanted. The African plane soon began to appear from below as we began to fly over the continent of Africa. It was a beautiful sight, and I just couldn't wait to set foot on the vast open African plains. This has been my dream for like years, and I can't wait for it to come true. Let's take a moment and enjoy the beauty of the landscapes on the prettiest continent on planet Earth. Below us soon appears salt pans. Salt pans are basically grassless areas of salty sand that has been left over from times when it was damp with water, basically like during the flooding of the Okavango that happens every year. I'll be exploring the salt pans while I'm here, which will be coming around in the next video, but to do that we still have to get there, so back to the flight we go. Begins almost as soon as it rose, mainly due to the fact that we had crossed so many time zones heading over the Atlantic Ocean. In previous times I had flown over the ocean, I had gotten severe jet lag, however I didn't have as much of a problem with it on this trip, which was interesting. Darkness fills the skies as we began to approach South Africa and our final destination of Johannesburg. I was exhausted after this extremely long flight, and I was just looking forward to landing. I really couldn't wait to step foot in Africa, but before that I would have to get a good night's rest if I was to be ripe and ready for this big expedition that was going to last 3 weeks. Our plane status, it was clear that we were only 28 minutes away from our final destination of Johannesburg, South Africa. What a relief, because I, again, was very tired after this excruciatingly long odyssey. It felt like it was never going to end. Johannesburg soon began to appear and shine in the darkness as we began our final descent. We make our final descent into the airport, and finally, after 15 hours, our plane lands in Johannesburg, South Africa. What a long flight this has been, but in good enough comfort. I didn't care what was happening in Africa, just as long as I was going to be able to get off this now stinking plane, because I had been sitting like this for like a good 36 hours after having left Austin, and was starting to get rather bored. The airport lights of Johannesburg, South Africa's airport in the distance, it seems I was finally going to be able to hop off the plane for the last time. We just had to taxi our way into the gate for a little bit, and finally, we eventually made it. What a relief to finally be off this plane from this extremely long odyssey that seems as if it was never going to end, and it seemed like it was going to go on for days and days and days. Now that I'm booked into a hotel, we can now bring today's video to a close. Next week, I'll be right back here in Johannesburg, South Africa to explore the vast African plains in the southern area and search for 4 rare and elusive animals. If you have fun with these videos, I suggest you like and subscribe. I have a lot of cool videos, such as the next one coming up very soon, and so I don't recommend that you miss them. But anyways, that's all for today. Thanks for flying with me on this really long odyssey, and I'll see you next time.